Hello, YT. White Spot. Hello, Amber. You think you know the story of Sleeping Beauty, don't you? Think again. Welcome, Night Dwellers, to the Night Realm. I am the Night Queen, and this is Dark Fairy Tale Night. Are you ready for a bedtime story? Oh, you are? Then come in. This is a safe, warm, loving, welcoming environment. There is no judgment here. We are family. This isn't just live. This is an interactive experience, an immersive experience. I want you to come in for the next couple of hours and just listen as I read. Let the cares of the world just melt away. We have a way of how we enter into story time here, don't we, Night Dwellers? If this is your first time here, welcome. We are honored to have you. Let's begin. Lower your lights. Lock your doors. Light a candle for ambiance. But we all know it's to chase those shadows away. Pull your curtains nice and tight. Wrap yourself in your warmest blanket to avoid the chills that are about to cool up your spine. And let's begin. You think you know the story of Sleeping Beauty. You've heard the sanitized version, the one they tell children at bedtime, with its pretty princesses and true love's kiss. The one where she sleeps peacefully for 100 years and wakes up to a happily ever after, right? But that's not the real story. No. The real story has been buried, locked away in the vaults of forgotten libraries, whispered only in the darkest corners of the kingdom where the roses have long since died. The historians burnt most of the records. The royal family paid handsomely to have the truth erased. Because what really happened in that castle, what really happened to Princess Briar Rose, was far too terrible to be remembered. They don't tell you about the thorns that grew with the hunger. They don't tell you about the princes that tried to break through and were found weeks later, their mouths open in silent screams. They don't tell you that the princess dreamed during those 100 years, or what she became in the darkness of her own mind. And they certainly don't tell you the price that was paid when she finally opened her eyes. This is not a fairy tale. This is a warning. What you're about to read is the true account of the Sleeping Curse, compiled from the diary of the wise women of the kingdom, the confessions of the castle servants who survived, and the mad scribblings found in the tower where it all began. Some stories are meant to comfort. Some are meant to haunt. Welcome to the real story of Sleeping Beauty. Chapter 1, The Barren Queen. A queen has one job: to provide an heir and a spare. Queen Rosamund pressed her palm against her flat stomach and felt nothing but emptiness. 7 years. 7 years of marriage to King Stefan, and her wound remained as cold and lifeless as a tomb. 7 years of disappointed physicians having to go tell the king, "She's not with child, Your Majesty." Of midwives who whispered behind their hands, of prayers that echoed unanswered in the castle's chapel, the prayers of a queen that stopped at the cathedral ceilings. 7 years of watching hope drain from her husband's eyes, replaced first with frustration, then pity, and finally, contempt. She stood at her chamber window watching the sun set, blood red over the kingdom, her fingers clutching the stone sill until her knuckles went white. Below in the courtyard, she could see her husband, the king, walking with Lady Margaret, the merchant's daughter, young, beautiful, fertile, with wide hips and an easy laugh. His hand rested on the small of the girl's back, lingering just a moment too long. Rosamund's jaw clenched. She knew where they were going, where he had been taking her for the past few days, the same place he'd taken Lady Catherine last month, the same private corridor, the same locked doors, the same sound she pretended not to hear when she walked past at night. Stefan barely came to her chambers anymore. Once a week, if she were lucky. And even then it was perfunctory, mechanical, a duty performed without desire. He would enter, do what was required, and leave without a word, his face turned away from hers as though the sight of her disgusted him. He once loved her. He once desired her. But that was no more. Queen Rosamond sat in her chair as her servant and lady-in-waiting Elspeth brushed her long blonde hair to a sheen. The physician just that day had told her, "Your Majesty, I have came to the conclusion after 7 years of you trying to conceive that you are, well, how do I put it delicately? You're barren." "Barren?" she whispered. The word tasted like poison. When he said barren the way he said it, as if it were a disease, she heard other words. Worthless. Unworthy to bear a child. The one thing she wanted more than anything in the world, she couldn't do. That's what they called her in the corridors when they thought she couldn't hear. The servants no longer bothered to lower their voices. "He'll get rid of her, I tell you. He has to have a queen that can bear him a child. Did you see him with Margot? I bet she's gonna be the next queen." "Shut your mouth." The poor girl. I've never seen no one want a child more than the queen does. It's not gonna happen. After 7 years, she's dried up like a river. In a drought, I tell you. Even the kitchen maids pitied her. And pity was so much worse than hatred. A queen's value was measured in one thing only: to provide your king with an heir, your kingdom with an heir. Without one, she was nothing. Less than nothing. She was an obstacle to be removed, a mistake to be corrected, a first wife to be set aside for a more youthful, more fruitful replacement. Rosamond had seen it before. Queen Alara of the Northern Kingdom, divorced and sent to a convent after 10 barren years. Queen Isolde of the Eastern Realm, who had mysteriously fallen from the balcony after her husband's mistress announced her pregnancy. Rosamond decided right then and there she would not let that happen. She would not be cast aside like spoiled, rotten meat. She would not spend the rest of her days locked up in some dark convent, forgotten and alone, while some fertile young thing wore her crown and slept in her bed. Later that night, Rosamond sat at her vanity in her nightgown, staring at the reflection in the candlelight. The face that looked back at her was beautiful. High cheekbones, clear skin, eyes the color of storm clouds. But beauty meant nothing without an heir. Beauty faded. Crowns were passed to sons, not to pretty, barren wives. All she had going for her now was looks. What have I done wrong? Tell me what I've done wrong. Why can I not bear my husband a child? Hear my prayer. Please. Behind her, her lady-in-waiting Elspeth began to brush her hair with long, gentle strokes. The young woman had been with her since the day she had arrived at the castle as a new bride 7 years ago. A wedding gift from Rosamond's father, a familiar face in a strange and hostile place. Elspeth was the only person in the cursed castle that she truly trusted. They sat in silence for several minutes, the only sound the crackling of the fire and the soft whisper of bristles through hair. Then Elspeth spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. Your Majesty, you are so lovely. Look at your hair, like spun gold. Elspeth, pleased. Your Majesty, there is a woman in the wild woods. Rosamond's hand shot up. Stop! I don't want to hear anything. Just brush my hair. Elspeth nodded. Yes, ma'am. Her voice was soft, insistent as she continued. She knew she was taking a risk. Her hands never ceased their rhythmic brushing. They say that she can help women who cannot conceive, Your Majesty. Women who have tried everything else. Rosamond's eyes found Elspeth's reflection in the mirror. The young woman's face was pale, uncertain, but there was something in her eyes, urgency, perhaps, or fear for what would happen to them both if things didn't change. Elspeth knew that if the Queen was cast aside, so was she. I said, stop speaking, Rosamond whispered, but her voice had lost its command. Your Majesty, permit me to say this. Say it. She lives deep in the forest where the old trees grow, where the king's men don't patrol. The villagers fear her, but they go to her when the midwives fail, when the prayers go unanswered. Oh, Your Majesty, I hear your prayers every morning and every night. Go to her. They go to her when there is no other hope. The brush moved through Rosamond's hair, stroke after stroke, hypnotic. Continue. They say she asked for a price. They say her methods are unnatural. But they also say she's never failed. Not once. Rosamond stared at Elspeth's reflection, her heart pounding in her chest. The fire cast unseen shadows across the young woman's face, making her look like a stranger. Easy for you to say, Rosamond thought bitterly, her gaze dropping to Elspeth's rounded belly, swollen with her third child in its many years. Easy to speak of hope when your womb is ripe with life, when conception comes to you as naturally as breathing. Rosamond played with the ring on her finger. Why are you telling me this? Rosamond asked, though she already knew the answer. Elspeth gasped. Because I've served you faithfully for 7 years, Your Majesty. Because you were the only mistress I have ever known. Because I see what is happening in the castle. Everyone does it. What the king is doing is terrible to you. And I know what will become of you, of us, if things do not change. I can't go back to that village. The brush paused. Their eyes met in the mirror. And because what? Because tomorrow night the king is hosting a private dinner with Lady Margot's father. Where did you hear this? From a servant. They're going to discuss arrangements to have you dethroned, Your Majesty. What? The words hit Rosamond like a physical blow. Arrangements, a diplomatic word for replacement. Her disposal. Her hand shot out and grabbed Elspeth's wrist, squeezing hard. The brush clattered to the floor. Is it her? Is it the girl that I saw him with tonight? Yes, Your Majesty. This woman in the woods. What is her name? Elspeth's eyes flickered with something. Fear, perhaps, or regret for what she had set in motion. I don't know, Your Majesty. The villagers don't speak it aloud. They don't dare, but they call her only the wise woman, or the old one. But I can find out for you. I can discover her name and where exactly that she dwells. Rosamond's grip tightened. She looked at her reflection in the mirror. Then do it. Find out everything. Her name, where she lives, what she requires. But Elspeth, tell no one. Not the other servants, not the guards, no one. Do you understand? Because if I find out that you did, God help you. Yes, Your Majesty. How long will it take? Give me 3 days. I have connections in the village. My mother still lives there. She knows the old stories, the whispered names. Rosamond released her wrist and turned to face the young woman directly, no longer content to speak through mirrors. 2 days. You have 2 days. After tomorrow's dinner, I may not have much time left. Elspeth curtsied low, rubbing her wrist where red marks were already forming. 2 days, Your Majesty. I will not fail you. And the young woman gathered the fallen brush and moved toward the door. Rosamond called out softly, Elspeth. Yes, Your Majesty. If this woman can truly help me, if she can give me what I need, Rosamund's voice dropped to barely a whisper. I don't care what price she asks. I will pay it. Let that be known. Elspeth's face went pale, but she nodded. I understand, Your Majesty. After the door closed, Rosamund turned back to her reflection. In the flickering candlelight, her eyes looked different. Harder. Darker. Desperate. She placed her hand on her stomach again. 2 days. She whispered to the child that did not yet exist. In 2 days, everything changes. Outside her window, storm clouds gathered on the horizon, and in the distance, thunder rumbled like a warning. If you're enjoying this story, show me some red hearts in the comments. Chapter 2, The Bargain. 2 days felt like an eternity. The dinner with Lady Margot's father was exactly as humiliating as Rosamund had feared. She sat at the far end of the table, practically invisible, already misplaced in her husband's eyes. While Stefan laughed and charmed, his attention fixed on the young woman at his side. Lady Margot blushed and giggled. Oh, Your Majesty, you do honor me so. I do love this ring. It's so... She turned down and looked at Rosamund at the end of the table. Lovely. She played her part perfectly, while her father discussed dowries and alliances with barely concealed eagerness. Queen Rosamund could not believe that they were having this conversation in front of her, as if they didn't think she could hear. She heard every word. So, Queen, I was just talking the other day. Can you please shut up? I'm sorry, my lord, but my mind is on other things. I fear that I am not the best companion for conversation tonight. Forgive me, my lord. She turned and looked back down the table at her husband and his lady, that he openly displayed like a piece of fine-bone china. No one spoke to Rosamund other than the lord that sat beside her. No one even looked at her. She was already a ghost in her own castle. She drank too much wine and excused herself early. No one noticed. That night, Elspeth came to her chamber with news. My lady, it's happening quicker than I thought it would. Out with it. Her name is Mother Morag, the young woman whispered, her face pale in the candlelight. She lives in the heart of the Thornwood Forest, in a cottage made of black stone, and I dare not say it. Black stone in what? Bones, Your Grace. Bones. Rosamund repeated. That's what my mother said. Apparently, my aunt was there once when she was young and desperate. Just 5 now. She wouldn't tell me what price that Mother Morag asked of her sister, but she said it was worth it. She said that to have a child of her own, suckling from her, was worth everything. Rosamond felt her heart pounding. How do I find her? Heavens help us. There's a path that starts at the old hanging tree, 3 miles north of the village. You must go alone at midnight when the moon is dark. You can't even take a horse. You must bring an offering, something precious to you, something that cost you dearly, and you must speak her name 3 times when you reach the cottage door. When it's the next dark noon. Tomorrow night, Your Majesty. Tomorrow. One more day of being invisible, of being worthless. And then, thank you, Elspeth. Rosamond moved to her jewelry box and pulled out a heavy gold bracelet with rubies. Take this. For your mother. For her help. And I will repay you handsomely when the deed is done. Elspeth's eyes widened. Your Majesty, I couldn't. This is 2 years' worth of... Take it, Rosamond commanded, and speak of this to no one. No one, Elspeth. I know how your mouth runs. Do you understand? Yes, Your Majesty. My lips are sealed. I won't say a word. After Elspeth left, Rosamond retrieved her most precious possession. It was an emerald necklace. Her mother had given her on her wedding day, the last gift before her mother died. She held it up to the candlelight, watching it sparkle like captured starlight. This is what she would offer, her most precious thing, for a child, for her salvation, for her throne. The next night, Rosamond slipped out of the castle through the servants' entrance, dressed in a dark cloak that hid her beauty. The journey to the village took over an hour on foot, and by the time she reached the old hanging tree, her boots were caked with mud and her cloak was soaked through. The hanging tree stood like a skeletal centennial at the edge of the thornwood forest. It was an ancient and twisted-looking thing, its branches bare even in summer, and legend said that 100 men had been unalived on those limbs over the centuries. Even now, in the darkness, Rosamond could see the frayed remains of old ropes still dangling from the branches, swaying in the wind like the ghost of the unalived. She shuddered and looked away, searching for the path that Elspeth had described. And there, just as she was about to give up, barely visible in the undergrowth, a narrow trail leading into the dark forest. The trees here were different from the tame woods near the castle. These were old growth, thick and gnarled, their branches forming a canopy so dense that even in daylight it would be twilight beneath them. In the darkness, it was like stepping into a grave. Rosamond hesitated at the threshold. Every instinct screamed at her to turn back, to return to the castle, to accept her fate with dignity. But then she thought of Lady Margaret's smile, her hand upon her husband's hand, of Stefan's hand on the girl's waist as they danced, of the empty seat at the end of the table, and she stepped into the forest. The path was barely there, more suggestion than reality, winding between massive trees whose roots seemed to reach out like fingers to trip her. She could hear voices calling out to her through the wind. Don't turn back. Don't go any further. Strange sounds echoed through the darkness. The hoot of an owl, the rustle of something moving through the undergrowth, the creak of branches overhead like the groaning of old bones. The deeper she went, the darker it became. The air grew colder, thicker, with the smell of rot and mushrooms and something else, something ancient and wrong that made her skin crawl. She had no idea how long that she had walked. Time seemed to lose meaning in the thornwood. It could have been minutes or hours, she didn't know. But eventually, she saw a light ahead. A faint, sickly green glow that pulsed like a heartbeat. And there it was. The cottage. It emerged from the darkness like something from a nightmare. Elspeth had said it was made of black stone and bones, and she hadn't been exaggerating. The walls were indeed black stone, slick with moss and crawling with fungi that glowed faintly blue in the dark. But set into the walls, forming patterns and designs, were bones. Human bones by their size and shape. Skulls grinned from the corners. Rib cages formed archways. Finger bones were arranged in spirals around the single window, which glowed with that same green, sickly light. The roof was thatched with something that looked like hair. Long, dark hair, woven together in thick ropes. Rosamund's hand went to her mouth, bile rising in her throat. Oh God. Turn back, a voice screamed in the wind. Turn back, now, before it's too late. But she thought of the empty cradle in her chambers that she wanted filled, the cold bed, the husband who looked at her with disgust, the crown that would soon belong to that sniveling weakling of a girl. She stepped up to the door, a massive slab of wood carved with symbols that hurt to look at, and raised her hand to knock. Then she remembered Elspeth's instructions. She lowered her hand. Mother Morag, she called out, her voice barely steady. Mother Morag. Mother Morag. 3 times as instructed. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the door swung open silently, revealing darkness within. And from that darkness came a voice like the scraping of bone on stone. Ah, Queen Rosamund, I've been expecting you. Come in. Rosamund's blood turned to ice. The creature, the woman, knew who she was, had known that she was coming. But how? Are you coming in? Or are you going to wait? We have work to do, Your Majesty. Rosamund thought with a strange, detached calm. She's been waiting for me. She knew I was coming. Queen Rosamund stepped across the threshold. Did you enjoy that chapter? Let me see some pretty green hearts. Chapter 3, The Bargain. The interior of the cottage was larger than it should have been. Impossibly large, with a ceiling that disappeared into shadows and walls that seemed to shift and breathe. The sickly green light came from jars lined up on shelves, each containing something that glowed and writhed. Herbs hung from the rafters in bundles, but they weren't any plants that Rosamund recognized. Some of them seemed to move on their own, reaching toward her as she passed. She screamed as one reached for her hair. Ah! Oh, don't worry about that. He's a pet. Come sit, Your Majesty. In the center of the room was a fireplace where flames burned blue and cold, casting strange shadows. And beside the fire, in a chair made of antlers and bones, sat Mother Morag. She was ancient. That was Rosamund's first thought. Not old, ancient. As if she had been alive since the world was young. Her skin was gray and papery. She was a terrible thing to look at. Stretched tight over prominent bones. Her hair was long and wide, but it moved like it was underwater, drifting around her face as if blown by a wind that wasn't there. Her eyes were the worst, though. They were solid black, with no whites, no irises, no irises, just pools of darkness that seemed to swallow the light whole. But when she smiled, her teeth were perfect and white and sharp. Sit, child, Mother Morag said, gesturing to a stool near the fire. We have much to discuss, and not much time to do it. Rosamund sat, her legs trembling. Up close, she could see that Mother Morag's hands were stained with something dark. Blood, perhaps, or something worse. She looked at her with those dark, bottomless depths. You want a child, do you? the crone said. It wasn't a question. Yes, Rosamond whispered. More than anything in the world. More than anything in the world, in the world, in the world, in the world. Yes, you've tried everything. Prayed to your gods, consulted your physicians, drunk your herbs and potions, and nothing has worked for you, poor little queen. No, nothing. Nothing has worked. And now you're desperate. Desperate that your husband is replacing you. Maybe even betting Lady Margot at this time. Taking a younger, fertile wife. Do you want the spell to be for your child, or do you want it to be for your king? Pushing you aside like you're nothing but garbage. Mother Morag leaned forward even more, her black eyes boring into Rosamond's. You would do anything, you say? Pay any price to have a child, to keep your crown, to make him want you again. Yes, the word came out as a sob. Mother Morag smiled wider. Good. Desperation makes for the strongest bargains. She stood, moving to a shelf where she selected a bottle filled with dark red liquid. She poured it into 2 cups carved from bone, naturally, and handed one to Rosamond. Drink. Rosamond stared at the cup. The liquid inside was thick, almost vicious, and it smelled of copper and earth. What is it? If you question me again, I will cast you out, and you will go back to your kingdom and your weak king, and you will live in that dark convent and dry up to be a crow like me. Drink. You said that you would pay any price, did you not, little queen? Rosamond lifted the cup to her lips and drank. I hate you, and I hate him. Hate makes you stronger. Now drink. It tasted of blood and honey and something else. Something that burned all the way down and made her vision swim. When she lowered the cup, the cottage seemed to be spinning slowly around her. Mother Morag drank from her own cup, then set it aside. I can give you what you want, she said. As Rosamond watched, the crone's facial features begin to change, from that of an old hag to a beautiful woman with long dark hair and dark eyes. A child. Her voice had changed, beautiful and perfect. One who will ensure your place as queen. Your husband will love you again, little queen. Your throne will be secure, but there is a price. What are you? What price? Rosamond asked, though part of her didn't want to know. Mother Morag held up 3 graceful, slim fingers. Well, they're small. 3 things. First, you will bring me an offering every full moon for 9 months while you carry that child in your womb. blood offerings. Must be your own blood, drawn fresh from your veins. Not so bad, is it? Rosamund nodded slowly. And the second? Just a little thing. When the child is born, you will invite me to her naming ceremony, to her christening. You will honor me before your court. Give me a place of respect among your guests, which is something that I have not had in centuries. A seat at your table. Recognition. That seemed almost reasonable, Rosamund said. Very well. You shall have it. And the third. Mother Morag leaned close. So close that Rosamund could smell decay on her breath. She was no longer the beautiful witch, but the crone again. The child will be yours in every way. Blood, your bone, your flesh, but she will also be mine. A piece of me will live in her, sleeping, waiting, and on her 16th birthday, that piece will wake. What happens then? Well, that depends on many things. On whether I am honored or insulted. On whether debts are paid or forgotten. She was beautiful again. Rosamund's eyes widened in horror. You're saying that you'll curse my daughter? I am saying I will give her a gift. Or a curse. The choice is yours, little queen. Honor me and she will live a long and blessed life. Insult me. Forget me. As the others have done, cast me aside as kings have done. Mother Morag's eyes glittered like black ice. Well, let's just say that curses have a way of finding their targets. It was a threat, a clear, unmistakable threat. Give her what she wanted. Respect, honor, a place at the table, or the child would suffer. Rosamund should have walked away. She should have refused, should have accepted her fate and returned to the castle, empty-handed. But she thought of Stephane's face, of Lady Margot, of the cold, empty years stretched ahead of her in some distant convent dressed in black, forgotten and alone. No, she would not have that. She would pay the price. I accept. Mother Morag's smile was terrible to behold. Good. Now give me your offering. Rosamund reached into her pouch with trembling hands and pulled out her mother's emerald necklace. It caught the firelight, glowing like captured stars. Mother Morag took it, her fingers closing around it possessively. Your mother's? Yes. The last gift she gave you before she died. The most precious thing that you own. Yes. Perfect. The crone stood and moved to a small altar in the corner, placing the necklace upon it reverently. Now, little queen, we do the real work. She moved to her shelves, selecting jars and bottles with practiced ease, and making a humming sound. Into a blackened cauldron hanging over the blue flames, she began adding ingredients one by one. Things Rosamond couldn't identify and didn't want to. Dried flowers that looked like tiny shriveled hearts, roots that writhed like worms, a liquid so dark it seemed to absorb the light. You understand, Queen, that conception is not merely a matter of the body. Mother Morak said as she worked, her movements precise and ritualistic. It requires, well, will, desire, union. Your husband has turned from you because you are dried up like a prune. His seed will not take root in soil that has been abandoned. So this spell is not only for you, but for him too. Rosamond's cheeks burned with shame, but she nodded. This potion will change that. Mother Morak stirred the cauldron and the contents began to bubble and steam. Tomorrow night, when the king retires to his chambers, you will go to him. You will wear a special robe that I have selected. You will find it in the back of your closet. You will drink half of this potion before you enter. The rest you will give to him. Mix it in the wine if you must, but he must drink it all. What will it do? It will make him see you as he once did, little queen. It will fill him with desire, with need, with desperate hunger for you and for your body. He will not be able to resist you. You will be together, and in that union the seed will be planted. My magic will ensure it takes root. Mother Morak lifted her arms, and the temperature in the cottage dropped until Rosamond could see her own breath. The flames turned from blue to black, and the shadows on the walls began to move independently, reaching toward the cauldron like grasping hands. Then the crone began to chant. Her voice changed even more, became many voices layered over each other, some high and childlike, others deep as grinding stones. The words were in no language Rosamond had ever heard, old and terrible, and they seemed to make the air itself vibrate. Blood of the Baron. Desperate and hollow, the cauldron stirred. Seed of the faithless forced to follow. Root in the darkness fed by despair. Life born of hunger, nurtured by prayer. Womb that is empty, womb cold as stone. Fill now with purpose, no longer alone. Bind flesh to promise, bind soul to debt. What is given freely cannot be reset. Shadow and substance mingled as one. Daughter of moonlight, never of sun. Beauty and blessing, cursed intertwined. Sleeping with her, waiting to find the key. The moment, the 16th year, when debts come due and payment is clear, honor or insult, remembered or spurned, determines the fate of the gift that is earned. The cauldron erupted with green flames shooting up toward the ceiling. Rosamond screamed and fell back, but Mother Morak only laughed, a sound like crackling ice. The flames died as suddenly as they had appeared, leaving the potion bubbling quietly. He had changed color now. It was deep crimson, the exact shade of fresh blood, and flowed faintly in the darkness. Mother Morag ladled it into a small crystal vial, stoppered it, and pressed it into Rosamund's trembling hands. Remember, little queen, a robe of sin waits. Tomorrow night, the crone repeated, you drink half before you go to him. Give him the rest in wine. He will come to you with a passion you have never seen. You will conceive. In 9 months, you will bear a daughter. And if I don't honor you? Rosamund asked, though she was terrified of the answer. Mother Morag's smile faded and her face became hard as stone. You don't want to find out. Don't break your promise. Remember that, Queen. When you hold your beautiful baby daughter in your arms, remember that her fate rests in your hands. Honor me, and she lives blessed. Forget me. Well, the crone didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Now, Mother Morag said, producing a knife, we seal the bargain in blood. She cut her own palm first, black blood welling up and dripping onto the altar where the emerald necklace lay. Then she held out the knife to Rosamund. Rosamund extended her hand and the crone drew the blade across her palm. Ouch! Red blood mixed with black on the altar and the necklace seemed to pulse with a dark light, the emeralds turning from green to crimson and back again. Mother Morag pressed the bleeding palms together and Rosamund felt something pass between them, something cold and ancient that burrowed into her very bones. The bargain is sealed, little queen. Mother Morag intoned, go now. Tomorrow night, lie with your husband. In 9 months, return to me with your daughter, and I will attend her naming ceremony. Fail to honor me, and your daughter will pay the price for your insult. The world tilted, the cottage spun, and when Rosamund's vision cleared, she was standing outside in the forest. The door closed behind her, the vial clutched in her bloody hand, and she ran. She made it back to the castle just before dawn, muddy and exhausted and terrified. Elspeth was waiting, helping her out of her filthy clothes and into a clean nightgown, bandaging her bleeding palm, asking no questions. As Rosamund climbed into bed, she had the vial and hid it beneath her pillow. Wait. Elspeth, go to my robe. Look toward the back. Tell me what you see. Tomorrow night, everything would change. Tomorrow night, she would conceive the child who would save her throne. Nothing, milady, just your gowns, corsets. Tomorrow night, it would appear. And in 16 years, the child would face a reckoning that had been set in motion that night, in a cottage made of bones with a bargain sold in blood. But that was 16 years away. For now, all Rosamund could think about was tomorrow night, and the husband who would finally want her again, and the crown that would be hers, and the throne that would remain hers. Even if that want was born of dark magic and desperate bargains, she placed her bandaged hand on her empty wound and whispered to the moon, "So be it." Thank you, thank you, thank you. If you enjoyed that, let me see some white hearts. Let's take an intermission. When we come back, I am finishing Sleeping Beauty. I hope that you are enjoying the dark telling of a dark fairy tale. I'll be back. Dark enough for you yet? Hey, X. Hello, Lulu. Hey, Turtle Woman. Yeah, I don't know if there's any white hearts or not. I thought about that. I'm like, you know what? I don't know if they have any of them on there. I wasn't sure. Now we know, don't we? Whew. Oh, there's the white ones. Okay. Hello, Andrew. Are you enjoying it, Pink? Hey, Bray Bab. Nice, nice, nice. Hello, Lindell. Lindell, do you like scary stories? Hello, Rebecca Wolf. I'm feeling better. I still have a little bit of a crud, but I'm definitely getting better. The white hearts are pretty, aren't they? Hello, Tatiana. Or Titana, I'm sorry if I mispronounced it. Hello, AJ Cav, good to see you. Thank you for lighting up that gallery. Appreciate it so much. Witchy Bryn, I'll take it. I like it. I like it. If I missed anyone, there is so many comments that there's no way I can see them all. So if you want to say hi, kind of post it now so I'll see it before I start reading again. Oh, I'm glad you like it, Titana. I'm glad. Glad that you enjoy it. Lemon Drop Kisses. I love that name. So let's just keep sharing the live. I'm not sure exactly how many likes we have. We're close to 200K. So that's a good place to be at this time. Thank you. Do you know anyone that likes scary stories? It's October. It's Halloween. Share, share, share. Please. Well, As far as Halloween, I got to thinking about that, and I don't know that that will be a good night to have a live because you're going to be with grandkids, children. So I'm going to do it the following night. We're going to have a Halloween special, a late Halloween special Saturday night. I want to give you all time to be with your family and see those adorable costumes. Hey, Magic Moon. I also have, I have also created a super chat in TikTok. I need a list of all of my Grims so I can personally invite you, but it is a thing where we can go in and just have chat in TikTok. So it's a pretty cool feature. I just set it up last night, so I just need that list of names. Hello, friendly HR specialist. How are you? Missed you, Tracy. How are you, darling? Will I be flying that Friday night? Yes, I will. I've got my broom. Oh. Oh. I wasn't aware. Thank you, X. I did not know. And also, the live highlights that I posted last night did amazingly well. So I will be doing that from now on, shouting out my top lovelies that have blessed the live, and you will get a shout out on TikTok for that. So thank you all so much. I think that the highlights actually did better than the little story clips that I'm doing. This is what I do. This is what I love. Live storytelling, telling you a story every night, Monday through Friday, 8:00 p.m., 7 Central. So thank you so much. The live highlights will continue to come. Has it been 10 minutes? Someone post the black hearts if it has. I don't know. I need to keep a timer. Beach Girl, hello. Thank you for joining. Oh, or will I be a cold stone with Ella? Maybe. Missed you all. You know, someone said, they're probably enjoying taking a break from you. And I'm like, no, my night dwellers aren't like that. I said, do you want to see the comments? All right, let's get back into story time. Do you like the darker look at this point of the story, or do you want the lights? Let me see red hearts if you like the lights. So you want the lights? Amy, thank you. I think it's a little too dark at this point in the show. Oh, you do like it? Okay, everybody just post. If you like the dark, say dark. All right, dark has it. Dark wins. Welcome back to the second half of Sleeping Beauty, a dog retelling. Chapter 4, The Conception. The next day crawled by like a wounded animal. Queen Rosamund could barely concentrate on anything. Hold on. I think I like the light. We'll get to that point, but just not yet. The next day crawled by like a wounded animal. Queen Rosamund could barely concentrate on anything. Her hand throbbed where Mother Morag had cut it, the bandage hidden beneath her long sleeves. The crystal vial felt like it was burning a hole through the drawer where she'd hidden it, wrapped in silk beneath her undergarments where no servant would dare to look. She attended morning prayers, but the words turned to ash in her mouth. How could she pray to the gods after what she'd done? After the bargain she'd made with something far older and darker than any deity worshipped in the castle chapel. Mother Morag's words came back to her. Honor me, and she lives blessed. Forget me. Well, the crone's words echoed in her mind like a curse already spoken. At midday, she forced herself to eat, though the food tasted like nothing. She would need her strength tonight. Elspeth hovered nearby, her face pale with worry. Your Majesty, are you well? You look fevered. I'm fine. Rosamund lied, just tired. In the afternoon, she saw Stefan in the gardens with Lady Margot again. They were walking arm in arm, and Margot was laughing at something he'd said, her hand resting possessively on his forearm. When they passed a secluded alcove, Stefan pulled her into it, and Rosamund had to turn away before she saw more. Tonight, she told herself, tonight, my king, her hands clenching into fist, tonight, you'll be mine again. Tonight, everything changes. As the sun set, Rosamund dismissed all her servants except Elspeth. Look at the robe. Tell me what you see. Elspeth walked over to the robe and opened the large doors. She reached into the back. It's just your gut. Hold on. Wait a second. There's something here. Rosamund closed her eyes and breathed. Oh, Your Majesty. This is very sheer. Bring it. Of course. Help me dress. Brush my hair. Yes, of course. When Rosamund laid her eyes on the garment that was barely there, she smiled. He won't be able to resist me in this. I don't think any man would be able to resist you in that, Elspeth said. Her eyes widened with understanding, but she asked no questions. It seems as if it's made of... It was black and sheer. Made of what? Magic, Your Grace. It is, Elspeth. It is. She helped Rosamund into the gown that clung to every curve, that brought out the color of her eyes, the honey gold of her hair. She brushed Rosamund's hair until it shone. She left it loose, cascading all the way down her back, the way that Stefan had once loved it. Your Majesty, Elspeth whispered as she fastened a final jewel at Rosamund's throat. Be careful. Be careful. I think we're past that. The king hasn't come to your chambers in weeks. If you do go to him and he turns you away, he won't. I paid dearly to make sure he does not. Not tonight. After Elspeth left, Rosamund retrieved the vial from its hiding place. In the candlelight, the potion glowed faintly, that deep crimson that looked so much like blood. She could almost hear Mother Morak's chant echoing in her mind. Blood of the barren, desperate and hollow. She uncorked the vial. The smell hit her immediately. Copper and honey and something darker, something that made her stomach turn. For a moment, she hesitated. This was dark magic. Unnatural. Wrong. If the priest knew what she was about to do, they would call her a witch and burn her at the stake. But then she thought of the convent, of Lady Margot wearing her crown, of dying alone and forgotten, her womb as empty as her future. She lifted the vial to her lips and drank half. It burned going down, worse than any wine, worse than any medicine. It tasted of blood and earth and decay, and for a moment she thought she would vomit it back up. But she forced herself to swallow, to keep it down. Almost immediately, she felt it working. Warmth spread through her body, starting in her belly and radiating outward. Her skin flushed, her heart began to race, and something else, a hunger, a need, a desperate want that made her hands tremble. She looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. The dark circles were gone. The rose of her cheek had returned. Her eyes flashed with fire. They were brighter, almost fevered. Her lips were fuller and redder, and her body, well, it was tight and firm and young. Alive in a way that she hadn't in years, she twirled before her mirror. She was desirable. She was powerful. She was ready to conceive. Beautiful. I am beautiful. Yes, you are, little queen. Now go to the king. She poured wine into a silver goblet and added the remaining potion, swirling it until the crimson liquid disappeared into the dark red wine. Then, with the goblet in hand, she left her chambers and made the way through the castle corridors toward the king's apartments. Queen Rosamund slipped from her chamber and walked down the cold, candlelit corridor. The guards at Stefan's door looked surprised to see her. She rose to her full height. There was no cowardness in her posture. Her Majesty, to see the king, she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. They exchanged glances and she could see the pity in their eyes. But then she saw the look as they pursued her from the top of her head to the soles of her feet. Everyone knew the king no longer wanted his queen. Everyone knew she was being replaced. I don't know. The queen, to see the king, open the door. They couldn't refuse her. Not yet. She was still queen. They opened the doors. What is this? Stefan's chambers were richly appointed, all dark woods and velvet curtains. A massive four-poster bed dominating the room. He was sitting by the fire, still dressed from dinner, a book open on his lap. When he looked up and saw her, his expression went from surprise to irritation. Rosamund, what are you doing here? The coldness in his voice would have shattered her yesterday. But today, with the potion burning in her veins, she felt nothing but determination. She slipped out of her velvet robe and only wore the black, sheer gown. I brought you wine, Your Majesty, she said softly, moving toward him with a grace she didn't know she possessed anymore. A peace offering, if you will. I know. What are you wearing? You used to like me in black, Your Grace. I know. I know things have been difficult between us, and I wanted to... She let her voice trail off, vulnerable, pleading. Stefan's jaw tightened. Rosamund, if you think you've come here to... Please, she interrupted, holding out the goblet. Just drink with me. 1 cup. That's all I ask. Like the old days, when we first married. When you first... Don't. He stared at her for a long time, and then she could see the war in his eyes. Duty versus disgust. Obligation versus desire to be rid of her. But she was still his queen, and refusing her completely would be a public insult he wasn't quite ready to make. He put the book down. Fine, he said curtly, taking the goblet. 1 cup. He drank deeply, draining half the goblet in one long swallow. Rosamund watched, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst from her chest. What is this? He took another sip. It's good wine, he muttered, taking another drink and another, and within moments the goblet was completely empty. Was it working? Rosamund wondered. For several heartbeats, nothing happened. She was shivering in her barely there clothes. Stefan set the goblet aside and turned back to his book. A clear dismissal. You can go now. Rosamund couldn't believe it. Mother Morak had lied to her. What was she going to do? I said go. She turned toward the door. She didn't see his hand freeze on the page. Rosamund. She turned around. She watched as his pupils dilated, his breath quickening. He looked her up and down, and the coldness in his eyes was gone, replaced by something else, something hungry and desperate and wild. He stood up. Rosamund, he breathed, and her name on his lips sounded like he used to, years ago when they were newlywed and he couldn't get enough of her. He stood, the book falling forgotten to the floor, his eyes raked over her body, taking in the black sheer gown, the loose hair, the curves he'd been ignoring for months. My God, he whispered, moving toward her like a man possessed. You're so beautiful. How did I not see? His hands found her waist, pulling her against him, and she could feel how much he wanted her, needed her. The potion had worked. He was mesmerized, enchanted, completely under the spell of Mother Morag's dark magic. I missed you, he murmured into her hair, against her neck, his lips hot on her skin. I've been such a damn fool, so blind. He kissed her then, desperate and hungry, with none of the cold, perfunctory touches of recent months. This was passion, raw and consuming. Rosamund felt herself responding despite everything. Despite knowing that it wasn't real, that it was magic compelling him, that tomorrow he might hate her again, but tonight he did not. He was hers. He lifted her easily, carrying her to the bed, his hands already working at removing her gown. She helped him, desperate now, needing this to work, needing the seed to take root, needing the child that would save her. Their clothes fell away, and he worshipped her body like a man starving. Like she was the only woman in the world, like the last 7 years of coldness and disappointment had never happened. When he entered her, she gasped and she swore she felt something, a spark, a connection, the magic working deep inside her womb. The potion burned in her veins, and she could almost hear Mother Morag's chant echoing in her ears. Root of the darkness, fed by despair, life born of hunger, nurtured by prayer. They moved together in the firelight, desperate and passionate and wild. And when it was over, Stefan collapsed beside her, pulling her into his arms in a way he hadn't done in years. Stay, he murmured sleepily, already drifting off. Stay with me tonight, my queen. And Rosamund lay there in the darkness, one hand pressed to her flat stomach, and felt it. The unmistakable sensation of life taking root, of a child beginning to grow where there had only been emptiness. She had done it. She had conceived. But as she lay there in her husband's arms, listening to his breathing slow to sleep, she couldn't shake the memory of Mother Morag's final words. Honor me, and she lives blessed. Forget me, and your daughter will pay the price. Rosamund closed her eyes and made a silent promise to the child growing inside her. I will protect you, Briar Rose. I will honor the bargain. You will be safe. But even as she made the promise, a small voice in the back of her mind whispered a terrible truth. Some bargains can never truly be honored. Some debts can never fully be paid. And some curses, once spoken, can never be undone. Outside the window, clouds covered the stars, and in the thornwood forest, Mother Morag smiled in her cottage of bones, knowing that the threads of fate had been woven exactly as she'd planned. The child was conceived. The curse was set. Now, there was 9 months to wait. Chapter 5. The 9 Moons. Rosamund woke the next morning still in Stefan's bed, wrapped in silk sheets that smelled of him. For a moment, she felt a flutter of hope. Perhaps the magic had worked permanently. Perhaps he would love her again. Perhaps everything would be different. And then she felt him stir beside her, and she turned to see his face. The desire was gone. The hunger had faded with the night. He looked at her with confusion, then dawning horror, as if he couldn't quite remember how she had ended up in his bed. My lady. Rosamund, he said carefully, sitting up and putting distance between them. You should return to your chambers immediately and burn that gown. The coldness was back. The magic had only lasted one night, long enough for conception, but unfortunately, not long enough to change his heart. She dressed quickly and silently, tears pooling in her eyes. Feeling his eyes on her back, neither of them spoke. When she reached the door, he called her name. Rosamund. She paused and looked back at him. Do not return to me again. He was already turned away, staring into the dead fireplace. She left without a word. 2 weeks passed before Rosamund was certain. The signs were unmistakable. The nausea that struck her every morning early, the exhaustion that made her bones feel like lead, the tenderness in her breast, and most telling of all, the absence of her monthly courses. She was with child. Elspeth wept with joy when Rosamund told her, falling to her knees and kissing the Queen's hands. God be praised! He has blessed you, Your Majesty! Finally! But the look that passed between the two women as the other woman stood beside them was knowing. Yes! The King will be so happy to hear that you are with child, Your Majesty. But Rosamund knew it wasn't God who had blessed her. It was something far older and far darker. The price had yet to be fully paid. She went to the royal physician, who confirmed what she already knew. Within days, the news spread through the castle like wildfire. The Baron Queen was finally pregnant. Stefan would have his heir. The king's reaction was complicated. He seemed pleased, relieved even, but there was something else in his eyes when he looked at her now. As Lady Margot rode away in a carriage, Rosamund watched from her tower and smiled. Yes, you stay. Go far away from here and never come back. Stefan looked at the Queen with suspicion, perhaps, or confusion, as if he couldn't quite remember how this had happened, but knew that something wasn't right. Still, he was kinder to her now that she was carrying his child. He visited her chambers occasionally, asked after her health, placed his hand on her growing belly with something that almost resembled affection. Lady Margot disappeared from court, sent back to her father's estates with a generous dowry and a marriage arranged to a northern lord. Rosamund had won. She had her child, her throne, her place, as the Queen, secured. But the price... The first full moon after her conception, Rosamund woke in the middle of the night with a burning sensation on her palm. The same palm where Mother Morag had cut her. When she unwrapped the bandage, she found the wound had reopened, bleeding freely. She remembered her bargain. Blood offerings. Your own blood, drawn flesh, every full moon for 9 months. Elspeth helped her in secret. They would slip out through the servants' passages in the dead of night, making their way to the edge of the Thornwood Forest. Rosamund never went back to the cottage. She couldn't bear to see it again. Instead, she would stand at the forest edge beneath the moon, let her blood drip onto the ground, and whisper Mother Morag's name 3 times. She placed her hand on her belly. Mother Morag. Mother Morag. Mother Morag. The blood would sink into the earth and disappear, as if something beneath it were drinking it down. And each time Rosamund swore she could hear laughter in the wind, old, cruel laughter that made her skin crawl. The pregnancy progressed strangely. The child grew faster than normal, it seemed. By the 3rd month, Rosamund looked 6 months along. There was no denying that the queen was pregnant. There was no denying that the queen was fruitful. The physicians were baffled, but attributed to twins, possibly, though they could only hear one heartbeat, strong and steady, but somehow wrong. Too slow, almost, well, no, they wouldn't voice that. Rosamund felt the child move constantly within her, but the movements were odd, not the gentle flutters other pregnant women described that she had looked forward to, but sharp jabs in her ribs, as if something inside her were testing the boundaries of its prison. She had nightmares every night. In the dream, she stood in Mother Morag's cottage, and the crone would place her gnarled hand on Rosamund's swollen belly. She hears me, Mother Morag would whisper. Even now, in the darkness of your womb, she hears my voice. I am teaching her, little queen, teaching her what she is, teaching her what she will become. And on her 16th birthday, if you don't honor your promise, well, we'll see if you keep it. Rosamund would wake screaming, drenched in sweat, and Elspeth would have to calm her, assuring her it was only a dream. Your Majesty, I'm here. It's all right. It's just a dream. But it was so real. It was so real. But Rosamund knew better. The dreams felt too real, too vivid. She suspected Mother Morag was actually there somehow, reaching through sleep to touch the child growing inside her. What have I done? She would think in her darkest moments. What have I done to have a child? The 5th month brought strange cravings. Rosamund wanted raw meat, nearly bloody, and the smell of cooking food made her violently ill. She craved earth, actual dirt from the garden, and had to force herself not to eat it. Once she woke to find herself standing at her window, staring out at the thornwood forest, with her hand on her belly, whispering words in a language she didn't know. Elspeth found her like that and led her back to bed, terrified. Your Majesty, it's not good for you to be eating raw meat with the baby. You were sleepwalking, you were speaking in tongues, and Your Majesty, you're covered in dirt. What was I saying? I don't know. It wasn't any language I've ever heard. It sounded old, wrong. Rosamund placed her hand on her belly and felt the child move, a sharp jab, almost gleeful. She's listening, Rosamund thought with growing horror. The thing inside her is already awake. Most women become their most beautiful when they carry life. But for Rosamund, she began to change in her 7th month. Her hair had always been the warmest honey blonde, but now streaks of silver appeared overnight, spreading like frost. Her eyes, once soft gray, became harder, colder with flecks of black that hadn't been there before. She looked in the mirror and barely recognized herself. Your Majesty, the king's physician said, this child is taking from you. This pregnancy is draining you in ways I've never seen from a woman before. You must rest, eat more, conserve your strength. You have a labor ahead of you, an heir to deliver. The Roseman knew the truth. The child wasn't just taking her strength, it was taking pieces of her warmth, her softness, her humanity, and replacing them with something else, something colder, darker. She's changing me, Roseman realized. She's changing me just like she's changing my daughter. The 8th month, Stefan came to her chambers late one night. She was sitting by the window, her hand on her enormous belly, staring out at the darkness. A cool breeze blew in. She looked like a ghost in her white nightgown, her silver-streaked hair loose around her shoulders. Roseman, he said quietly, and there was something in his voice she hadn't heard in years. Dear, I need to ask you something, and I need you to tell me the truth. She turned to look at him. She was disgusted. She was miserable. She was carrying his child. And he blinched slightly at her cold, black-flecked eyes. What is it? That night, the night this child was conceived, he gestured to her belly. I can't remember it clearly. It's like a dream or like I was drunk. But I wasn't. I remember wanting you desperately more than I'd ever wanted anything. But it wasn't. It didn't feel like me, like my desire. He stepped closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. What did you do to me? Don't lie. Roseman's heart raced. She could lie. Should lie. But she was so tired of lies. So tired of secrets. So tired of carrying this burden alone. So tired of seeing her beauty disappear day by day. I did what I had to do, she said quietly, to save myself. To save me. What does that mean? Oh, Stefan. It means you were going to replace me. It means I was barren and worthless and you were going to cast me aside for a younger, fertile woman. Roseman, don't lie to me. I heard the whispers. I saw the smiles. I saw you take her behind a bush. It means that I was desperate. Her voice hardened. And desperate people, my love, do desperate things. Stefan's face went pale. You used what? What? Magic? Witchcraft? Does it matter? She stood, her hands cradling her belly. She walked toward him. You have your heir. I have my throne. Isn't that what we both wanted? I see the women you bring into your corridor, your secret corridor every night. Do what you will, but you will not replace me. At what cost? He stared at her belly with something like horror. What is that child, Rosamund? What have you brought into this world? She is your daughter, your majesty, Rosamund said. Our daughter. And she will be beautiful and perfect and blessed. Then why do I see darkness when I look at you? Stefan whispered. Why do I have nightmares about her birth? Why does every instinct I have scream that something is wrong here? Rosamund looked at him, ran her hands over her swollen, pregnant belly. Get out, she said, her voice cold as winter. Get out of my chambers. You wanted an heir? You'll have one in a month. Be grateful and ask no more questions. And Stefan, don't come to me again unless I ask. Stefan left, but not before looking back at the one last time with something between pity and terror. After he was gone, Rosamund sank back into her chair and wept, her hand on her belly where the child kicked and moved. I'm sorry, Briar Rose, she whispered to her daughter. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I didn't understand what I was doing. But it was too late for regrets at that point. The bargain was sold. The child was coming. And in 1 month, on the next full moon, Princess Briar Rose would be born. Beautiful, cursed, blessed, and damned, a child of desperate bargains and dark magic. And Mother Morag would be waiting on her invitation. The labor began on the night of the 9th full moon, just as Mother Morag had promised. Rosamund woke to pain, sharp, tearing pain that felt like something inside her was clawing its way out. She screamed, and Elspeth came running, calling for the midwives. The birth chamber was prepared quickly, linens and hot water, herbs burning, and the royal physician standing by with his instruments. Send for the king, the head midwife instructed his servant. Don't you dare have him come in here with me. She let out another scream that ripped her body. Another day passed. Send for the king. This time she was too weak to protest. Stephen did not come. Not for hours, not while Rosamund screamed and bled and pushed, feeling like she was being torn apart from the inside. The labor was wrong. All of it was wrong. It lasted too long, 3 days. The pain was unlike anything the midwives had seen, and Rosamund's screams echoed through the castle, making servants cross themselves and whisper prayers. Blood soaked through the linens faster than they could be changed. Something's wrong, the physician muttered, his hand shaking as he examined her. The child, it's positioned strangely, and there's so much blood. I've never seen much. Go get more linens. Save the queen, one of the midwives whispered. We may have to choose, but save the queen. No! Rosamund screamed, gripping the woman's arm with inhuman strength. Her eyes were wild, more black than gray now. The child lives. Whatever happens to me, this child lives. Do you understand? The midwives exchanged frightened glances, but they nodded. As the sun set on the third day of labor, Rosamund felt something change. a presence in the room, cold and ancient and watching. She looked toward the window and thought she saw a shadow there, tall and thin, with white hair that moved like it was underwater. Mother Morag. The crone wasn't physically there, but Rosamund could feel her, watching, waiting for her daughter to be born. She didn't hear the voice whisper to her child. Turn, Briar Rose. Come into the world, little dove. And suddenly, Rosamund gasped, she's coming! The baby, she's coming now! And with one final agonizing push that felt like it was splitting her in two, the child was born. The room fell silent. The baby didn't cry. For a terrible moment, Rosamund thought she was dead. That after everything, all the bargains and the blood and the magic, the child had been born dead. Then, the baby opened her eyes. The midwife gasped in horror. They were yellow, bright, burning yellow, like a wolf's eyes catching lamplight in the darkness. The midwives gasped and stepped back. One of them made a sign against evil. Give her to me, Rosamund commanded, her voice hoarse from screaming. The head midwife, trembling, placed the child in Rosamund's arms. Rosamund looked down. The baby was beautiful. Impossibly, breathtakingly beautiful. Perfect porcelain skin, a rosebud mouth, delicate features that would make her stunning as she grew. Her hair was honey blonde, already thick and lustrous for a newborn. And those eyes, those yellow wolf eyes shining up, staring with an intelligence that no infant should possess. The baby opened her mouth and wailed, a sound so piercing that every window in the chamber cracked, spider webs of fractures spreading across the glass like frozen lightning. God save us, one of the midwives whispered, backing toward the door. Rosamund held her daughter close, ignoring the fear on everyone's faces. Her name is Briar Rose, she announced. Princess Briar Rose. Only then did Stefan finally arrive, still in his riding clothes, smelling of horses and the outdoors. He'd been hunting. Rosamund realized bitterly while she screamed and bled and nearly died, delivering his child. He'd been hunting. Your Majesty, the physician said, bowing. You have a daughter. Stefan approached slowly, his face unreadable. He looked down at the child in Rosamund's arms, and something changed in his expression. The fear melted away, replaced by something Rosamund hadn't expected. Wonder, pure, absolute wonder. She's beautiful, he breathed, moving closer. May I, Queen? Rosamund, surprised, nodded and carefully transferred the tiny infant girl to his arms. Stefan held his princess daughter like she was made of glass, staring down at her with an expression that Rosamund hadn't seen on his face in years, maybe ever. The baby looked up at him with those yellow eyes, and instead of fear, Stefan's face broke into a wide, genuine smile. Look at my daughter's eyes, he said softly. Have you ever seen anything like them? No, Your Majesty, they are unique indeed. And look at those lashes. They're extraordinary. There, Unusual, Rosamund said carefully from the bed. They're beautiful. She is beautiful. He picked her up high and lifted her in the air. She's perfect! He looked at Rosamund, and for the first time in months, there was real warmth in his gaze. You've given me a daughter, Rosamund. A perfect daughter. He was in love, completely, utterly besotted with his infant daughter, the child in his arms. And Rosamund felt something twist in her chest. Not relief, but a strange, bitter jealousy. She had sacrificed everything for this child and made terrible bargains, had given blood and magic and pieces of her soul for 9 months. And now Stefan, who ignored her for months, was acting as this was all his doing. But she said nothing. She was too exhausted. Chapter 6. The Christening. The next few weeks passed in a blur of recovery and preparation. Stefan was a changed man. He doted on Briar Rose constantly, spending hours in the nursery, insisting on holding her, having her brought to him during council meetings. He commissioned portraits, showered her with gifts, and spoke of nothing but his remarkable daughter. The court, seeing the king's devotion, followed suit. The princess with the wolf eyes became an object of fascination rather than fear. Nobles came from across the kingdom to see her, and they all agreed she was extraordinarily beautiful. And those unusual yellow eyes only made her more striking, more memorable. Rosamund nursed her daughter and felt disconnected. She loved Briar Rose. Of course she did. But there was a coldness in her heart when she looked at Stefan holding their child, cooing and laughing. And then came the christening. They were in the nursery. Stefan was walking back and forth as Briar Rose slept in her cradle. It will be the grandest celebration this kingdom has ever seen, Stefan announced. Nothing but the best for my daughter. I want every noble family invited, and we'll have the wise women come to bless her as is tradition. How many? Rosamund asked from her chair, though her heart had already begun to sink. 3 is traditional for a royal christening. We'll invite the most respected ones in the kingdom. Rosamund's blood ran cold. 3 wise women. But she had promised Mother Morag a place at the christening. She opened her mouth to speak, to remind Stefan, but what could she say? Well, actually, Your Majesty, I made a deal with the devil, a terrifying crone in the woods, and I promised her a seat at the table. Is something wrong? Stefan asked. No, Rosamund said quietly. 3 wise women sounds appropriate. I'll send word to Mother Morag myself, she thought. I'll explain. I'll give her another gift if that is what she wants. But the days rushed by in a whirlwind of preparations. And Rosamund was swept up in 1,000 details. Stefan took over most of the planning, determined that everything be perfect for his daughter. And somehow in the chaos, Rosamund forgot. She forgot to send word to Mother Morag. Uh-oh. She forgot her promise. She forgot her word. The day of the christening arrived bright and cold. The castle's great hall was transformed, flowers everywhere, silk banners, tables laden with food. Nobles filled the space, dressed in their finest, all eager to see the remarkable princess with the wolf eyes and the extraordinary beauty. 3 golden plates were set at the high table for the wise women. Only 3. The ceremony began. Briar Rose was brought forward in her christening gown, white silk embroidered with gold thread. She was 2 months old now and more beautiful than ever. When she opened her yellow eyes and looked out at the crowd, there was an audible gasp of admiration. "Oh, she's lovely. Have you ever seen such a beautiful child?" 3 wise women approached. Fairies, softly gliding down from the cathedral dome. Beautiful, one dressed in blue, one in pink, and one in white, and gave their blessings, grace and beauty, wisdom and courage, kindness and compassion. Then the doors exploded inward. The sound was like thunder. The doors shattered, splinters flying like arrows. Guests screamed, guards drew swords, and through the room doorway came Mother Morag. She looked worse than Rosamund remembered. More terrible, more wrong. Her white hair whipped around her face, her black eyes fixed on Rosamund. She transformed into the beautiful witch again, and everyone gasped. Who is she? Where is she from? Queen Rosamund, she said, her voice like grinding stones. How kind of you to remember me. The words dripped with venom. Rosamund's knees went weak. The forgotten promise, the broken bargain. Stefan rose from his throne. Who are you? Who dares you to enter my... Oh. We haven't properly been introduced, have we, King? One of the wise women spoke up. Mother Morag, go back from whence you came. Do not disturb. The next thing the wise women knew, she was floating across the ceiling, up to the top, suspended, looking down in horror. Would another one of you like to say something? Yes. Where was I? Let me properly introduce myself, King Stefan. I am the one your queen made a bargain with. Mother Morag said, I am the one who gave you this child, Briar Rose. I am the one she promised to honor at this ceremony. And after this dress, this gown that I prepared, the crown on my head, you forget your promise. Mother Morag, silence! Her black eyes never left Rosamund. And I am the one that she forgot. They all forget me. There's centuries, everyone has forgotten me. But I promise you, I will be forgotten no more. The court erupted in shocked whispers. 3 golden plates, the crone said softly, deadly. 3 blessings. 3 honored guests, but you promised me a place here, didn't you, little queen? And I see. She looked at the high table. I see that I've been forgotten. I knew the day you came to me that you would. You are weak and selfish. She didn't want to lose her throne, Your Majesty, or her crown. So she came to me and wanted a child to keep you. It was a mistake, Rosamund gasped. I meant to... Stefan, listen to me. Shut up! Don't say another word. Disappear from my presence, and I do not ever want to see you again. But Silence! The word cracked like a whip. You made a promise, little queen. You broke it. And I told you there would be consequences. And now, there are consequences. Mother Morag moved to the cradle. Stefan tried to stop her, but she waved her hand and he froze midair, unable to move. The crone looked down at Briar Rose. The baby stared back with those yellow eyes, and something passed between them. Recognition, ancient and knowing. Hello again, little one. Briar Rose, your mummy has did a very bad thing to you. Then she straightened and addressed the court. Since I was not invited to bestow a blessing on the young princess, I shall give a gift of another kind. She placed one gnarled finger on Briar Rose's forehead. Before the sun sets on her 16th birthday, this child shall prick her finger on a spindle, and when her blood falls, she will fall as well, into a sleep like death. The baby smiled, a knowing, aware smile that no infant should make. No! No, please, don't do this! It's already done. Mark my words, Queen. On the 16th day, the 16th birthday, your daughter will die. And all because you broke your promise to me. And then she was gone, vanished in dead flowers and freezing wind. The hall erupted in chaos. The king unfroze and fell to the ground. He ran to the cradle and picked up Briar Rose, one of the wise women with wings of wisp, floated over. Your Majesty, what the witch has said is true. Before the sun sets on her 16th birthday, this child shall prick her finger on a spindle. And when her blood falls, she will fall as well, into a sleep like death. I make that sleep that will last for 100 years. And it can be broken by true love's kiss. Yes, Briar Rose, you will die for 100 years. But may someone come to you that can wake you up. Stepan looked down at his daughter, and then he looked at his wife, who waited in the shadows, and he hated her. Chapter 7, The Gilded Cage. The night of the christening, King Stepan didn't sleep. He sat in his study with Briar Rose cradled against his chest, staring into the fire. When dawn broke, he called his council. "I want every spinning wheel in the kingdom," he announced. "Every spindle, every distaff, I want them destroyed, burned today." "Your Majesty, the people need—" "I don't care," Stepan said coldly. "My daughter's life is worth more than convenience. Anyone found hiding a spinning wheel will be arrested. Anyone caught with a spindle after today will face execution." The order went out within the hour. But his lords and chancellors begged him. "My lord, there are people who make a living off of making cloth and silk and fine—" "You heard me." Soldiers swept through the kingdom, confiscating spinning wheels, burning them in great pyres. People wept and protested, but Stepan was unmoved. Rosamund watched from her window as the fires burned and knew the truth Stepan refused to see. You can burn every spindle in the kingdom, but Mother Morag would deliver. Because you can't burn away a curse. The years that followed were marked by Stepan's increasing paranoia and Rosamund's growing bitterness. They fought constantly now, vicious, brutal fights behind closed doors. "This is your fault," Stepan would hiss. "Your bargain, your magic. I should have you burned. I gave you an heir, the heir that you wanted," Rosamund would scream back. "Where was your love when I was barren? Where was your devotion when you were with Lady Margot in your room? You were going to replace me, and now our daughter will pay the price for it. So don't blame it all on me." The fights echoed through the castle, and Briar Rose would listen with those yellow wolf eyes. As Briar Rose grew, it became clear she was not like other children. She walked at 6 months, spoke in full sentences. By her first birthday, at 2, she could read. Her beauty was so striking that the servants would stop and stare, forgetting their duties. And those eyes, always watching, always knowing. She never cried, never threw tantrums, was perfect, too perfect. Stepan saw none of the wrongness. To him, she was perfection. His beautiful daughter, who he would protect at any cost. On her 7th birthday, though, he moved her into a tower he'd had it specially built, isolated, secure, with only one entrance, and walls thick enough to withstand a siege. "But Mother, why are you locking me away?" "It's for your own good, my daughter," he told her. "I don't understand." "I'm protecting you. I'm protecting you until your 16th birthday, and then you will be free." "But I've been free. I don't want to stay here." From that day forward, she lived in her tower. Guards posted at the entrance, meals brought 3 times a day, tutors under heavy escort. She was imprisoned. She wasn't happy. The fights between Stepan and Rosamund grew worse. Now you've locked our daughter away like a criminal. She's alive. That's all that matters. She's miserable. She's safe. But the truth was, Stefan avoided the tower because something about Briar Rose unsettled him now. The way she watched from the window. The way she didn't smile. The way she looked at him with those knowing yellow eyes. Roseman went every day climbing the stairs to visit her daughter, and every time she was struck by how much Briar Rose had grown, how truly beautiful that she had become. At 10, Briar Rose was stunning. At 12, breathtaking. By 14, her beauty was almost painful to look at, and those eyes always watching. Are you happy here, my dear? Roseman asked once. Happy? Briar Rose tilted her head. No, Mother. I'm not. I don't understand why I have to be locked away. I don't understand why everyone talks in whispers around me. Can you tell me why I'm here? Briar Rose. I can't speak it. As Briar Rose's 16th birthday approached, Stefan's paranoia reached new heights. He doubled the guards, had the tower searched daily, interrogated anyone who came near. 3 months before her birthday, he and Roseman had their final fight. This is your fault, Stefan screamed. Your bargain. Your daughter is locked in a tower because of you. Our daughter is locked in a tower because of your paranoia, Stefan. I'm keeping her alive. You're torturing her. She no longer smiles, no longer sings. The birds no longer come to her windowsill. Then leave. I don't need you. I never needed you. All I needed was your body. The words hung in the air like poison. You're right, Roseman said quietly. You don't need me. On the morning of Briar Rose's 16th birthday, Roseman woke with dread. She dressed and made her way to the tower, past exhausted guards, up the winding stairs. Briar Rose stood at her window in a crimson gown that was made for her birthday, her honey blonde hair cascading down her back. When she turned, her yellow eyes were brighter than ever. Hello, Mother. Briar Rose, I have something to tell you. And I don't want you to hate me. I could never hate you, Mother. You gave me life. I couldn't have a child. I was desperate. I went to someone that I should not have and asked for something that I should not have asked for. Briar Rose lowered herself to the bench at the window and folded her hands demurely in her lap. What are you talking about, Mother? Briar Rose, I wanted a child more than anything. I wanted you. Your father was going to replace me as queen. take away my throne, my crown, my pride. I went to a witch and asked her for you. Briar Rose's look had changed. Her eyes narrowed. Go on. The witch asked one thing of me. To invite her to your christening. And I forgot. She put a curse on you. The reason that you have been locked up for all these years. Is because today you're supposed to die. Briar Rose was painfully beautiful to look at. What? I don't understand. You were supposed to die today. You will sleep for 100 years. Wait. You mean to tell me that I am here in this tower, in this jail, in this prison for 16 years because of something that you did? Mother, I haven't been able to see light or life or walk through grass. I've been kept in this prison because of you and what you did. I'm sorry, Briar Rose. I'm so sorry. But we are going to protect you. You're not going to die. We're going to keep you alive. Please just get out. Please get out. I don't want to see you, Mother. Please leave. Briar Rose, I'm begging you. Please forgive me. I'm sorry for what I did. It's too late. And then the goodness and beauty came out in Briar Rose. I don't hate you, Mother. You did what you did because you felt like you needed to do it. So you forgive me then? No, I don't forgive you. Well, I suppose that I should enjoy whatever time I have left. No, you will not talk like that. Mother, please. Let me have whatever time that I have remaining to myself. Nothing is going to happen to you. She said that a spindle with a needle, you would pierce your finger. There are no spindles. Your father has taken them all away. There is not one in this kingdom. I'm going to go away now, but I will come back tonight and I will check on you. It will be all right. There's no spindles, so there's no way that her curse can come true. Whatever you say, Mother. I love you, Briar Rose. I love you. As the door closed and locked, Briar Rose lay on her bed. her mind reeling with what she had just heard, what her mother had did, the sorrow and the pain that she had been put through for years, 16 years. A spindle. A spindle. No spindles to be found, so... And then, as she lay on the bed, she saw something glimmer from the hem of her gown. She knelt over and looked at it. The shimmer transferred to the wall by the fireplace. A green glow emanated, and there before her eyes was a spindle, spinning, turning, slowly. Briar Rose rose from her bed, walked across the floor. She was drawn to it, particularly to the sharp needle at the top. She thought of all the years that she had been held captive. All the years that she had been kept a prisoner. All the years that she had missed. She reached out. This would be a decision she would make on her own. She touched the spindle, and with the tip of her finger, she stuck her finger. Nothing. Nothing at all. She felt fine. She felt fine. Briar Rose hit the floor, and the world held its breath. It wasn't a sound. It was a feeling, a vibration through the stone. Rosamund clapped her hands over her ears in her chamber, but it did nothing. Stefan threw himself across his bed. He knew what had happened. Storm clouds darkened the sky. The rain began to pour. Rosamund hurried down the corridor, up the stone steps to the tower, and opened the door, and there she saw her daughter, Briar Rose. No! Thorns. Massive black thorns were erupting from the earth, growing with impossible speed, wrapping around the tower, climbing. They reached the window just as Rosamund and then Stefan picked her up and placed her on her bed. The thorns punched through stone. They poured into the room, wrapping around furniture, reaching. One caught Rosamund's ankle. She screamed. The thorn bit down, pulling her down. Rosamund! Stefan lunged for her, but thorns caught him too. The last thing Rosamund saw was her daughter's face, peaceful, sleeping, smiling. Then darkness took her, and she fell asleep. Across the castle, across the kingdom, everyone fell. Guards collapsed mid-step. Servants dropped dishes. Nobles slumped over dinner. Horses stood frozen. Birds fell silent. The entire kingdom fell into enchanted sleep. And around it all, the thorns grew. They consumed the tower, the castle, everything, creating an impenetrable wall 50 feet high. And at its heart, hidden deep within that forest of darkness and death, was a tower. And in that tower slept Princess Briar Rose, and everyone who had ever known her slept for 100 years. 100 years later, a prince stood at the edge of a forest that hadn't existed a century before, staring at the bones of his brothers. Prince Aldrich was the youngest of 6 sons. Nothing really, an afterthought. His 2 oldest brothers, Crown Prince Damien and Prince Garin, had never bothered with the quest. Chasing fairy tales is for younger sons with nothing better to do. But the 4 brothers between them, they had all tried, and all for the wrong reasons. Marcus, the 3rd son, Stephen the 4th, Roland the 5th, and Willem, Aldrich's oldest brother, closest brother, all dead. Their bones scattered at the edge of the thorns. 4 brothers dead, all for the wrong reasons. Glory, beauty, wealth. Aldrich was different though. While his brothers competed for their father's attention, Aldrich had haunted the library. While they pursued glory, he pursued knowledge. And when he'd heard the tale of Sleeping Beauty, he hadn't heard a story about a prize. He'd heard a tragedy, a girl cursed through no fault of her own, a kingdom that fell asleep, all waiting for someone to care enough to break the spell. Not for glory, but because it was right. He'd studied the curses, learned that dozens had tried over the past century, all seeking fame, fortune, or beauty. All had died screaming. The thorns knew the truth of a man's heart. They killed anyone whose heart wasn't pure. Aldrich was no warrior, just a 6th son who'd read too many stories. But maybe that was enough. He stepped forward into the shadows of the thorns. The walls of thorns rose like a mountain of death. Massive black vines covered in barbs the length of daggers. At their base, hundreds of skeletons in rusted armor. His brothers were here, somewhere. Aldrich drew his sword and approached slowly. Sleeping Beauty, I don't know if you can hear me, he said quietly. But I'm not here for glory, Princess. Not for wealth or power. I'm not even here because I think you're lovely. He stopped before the thorns. I'm here because you've been asleep for 100 years. Because an entire kingdom has been trapped. Because someone should care enough to try it, even if it means dying. Thorns, let me pass. Even if she wakes up and doesn't want anything to do with me, even if there's no reward at all. He took a breath and raised his sword. I just want her to wake up. That's all. I just want her to have a choice again. He touched his blade to the thorns. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the thorns moved, but not to kill him. They pulled back, slowly, reluctantly, like an old wound opening. The massive vines pulled away from each other, creating a narrow passage just wide enough for a man to walk through. Aldrich's heart hammered. Behind him, the forest held its breath. He stepped into the passage. The thorns closed behind him immediately. The only way was forward. The passage was barely wide enough for his shoulders, the thorns pressing close on either side. Their barbs were inches from his face. One wrong move, and he'd be impaled, just like the other princes. He walked carefully, his breathing steady despite his racing heart. The passage twisted and turned, leading him deeper, and then it began to narrow. Aldrich had to turn sideways to squeeze through, the thorn scraping against his chest and back. A barb caught his shirt, tearing it, drawing blood. He raised his sword, he hissed, and he kept moving. The passage narrowed even further. He had to press himself flat against one wall to avoid the barbs on the other. Blood ran down his arm where a thorn had caught him, tearing into his flesh. This is a test, he realized. The thorns are testing me. Or is it her? Sleeping Beauty. Ahead, the passage looked impossibly narrow, barely wide enough to fit through. He could see bones there, skeletons, princes who had made it this far, and panicked. He couldn't turn back. The passage behind had closed. Forward was the only option. Aldrich sheathed his sword and began to squeeze through the impossible gap. Thorns pressed against his chest, his back, his arms. He felt them catching on his clothes, his skin, drawing blood. Pain lanced through him, sharp and burning, but he pushed forward, inch by agonizing inch. A barb caught his cheek, carving a deep line. Another scraped across his ribs, blood soaked his shirt. "Why are you doing this?" a voice whispered in his mind. "Why suffer? Why bleed? She doesn't know you. She doesn't care about you." "I know," Aldrich gasped, forcing himself forward. He was losing a lot of blood. "But she deserves to wake up anyway." "You could have glory. Just admit you want the reward," his mind said. "No," Aldrich gritted out, "not for that. Never for that." "Then why? Why are you going forward?" "Because it's right." The words tore from him. "Because she's been asleep for 100 years, and that's not fair. Because everyone in that castle deserves to live again. Because I read her story and couldn't stop thinking about how terrified she must have been." He shoved himself forward, and suddenly the passage widened. He stumbled into a clearing, gasping, bleeding from cuts all over his body. Behind him, the passage filled with a sound like breaking bones. But ahead, the thorns had pulled back further. A path led to a tower. Aldrich pressed his hand to his bleeding ribs and kept walking. The path was wider now, but no less dangerous. Every few yards, thorns would lash out without warning, testing him, attacking him. He dodged and weaved, his sword flashing as he deflected barbs that struck like serpents. A thorn caught his leg, sinking deep into his thigh. He cried out, nearly fell, but forced himself to keep moving. Blood poured from the wound. Another thorn wrapped around his wrist, barbs biting deep into his jugular, into his veins. He hacked at it until it released him, leaving his arm a bloody mess. "Turn back, Aldrich. Die here, with honor." "Not yet," Aldrich gasped. "Not when I'm this close." He could see the tower now, rising through the thorns. So close. A massive thorn vine dropped from above, wrapped around his chest, squeezing. Barbs sank into his torso, his shoulders, his back. He couldn't breathe, couldn't move. The vine lifted him off his feet, and he felt his ribs beginning to crack. "Then this is how you die, Prince." But with his last bit of strength, with vision fading, Aldrich managed to speak. "I don't care if I'm forgotten. Just let her wake up." The vine stopped squeezing. For a long moment, Aldrich hung there, suspended, waiting for his death. Then the vine unwound and dropped him. He hit the ground hard, gasping, blood pouring from dozens of wounds. Above him the thorns pulled back, creating a clear path to the tower door. The test was over, and he had passed. Aldrich dragged himself to his feet, swaying, dizzy from blood loss. Every step was agony, but he kept walking. One step, and then another, until finally he reached the tower door. It stood open, waiting. He stepped inside. The tower was silent as a tomb. People slept everywhere. Guards, servants, a cat on a windowsill, all frozen in time, barely breathing. Aldrich climbed the stairs, leaving bloody handprints on the stone. His vision swung. He'd lost too much blood. He could feel his strength fading. But he kept climbing, up and up past sleeping people, until finally he reached the tip-top of the tower. A door stood open before him. Carved with symbols that hurt to look at. It was slightly ajar, and through the gap he could see golden light. Aldrich pushed it open with his last bit of strength. The room was beautiful. Rich tapestries, a silk-draped bed, books and instruments, everything perfect, untouched. And on the bed, sleeping, was the princess. She was the most beautiful woman Aldrich had ever seen. Breathtakingly so, honey blonde hair spread across the pillow like spilled sunlight, pale skin, red lips, perfect features that belonged in legends. In a crimson gown that made her look like she was bleeding. Aldrich stumbled toward the bed, barely able to stand. He was dying. He knew that. Too much blood loss. Maybe minutes left, but he'd made it. He'd reached her. He collapsed to his knees beside the bed, and with trembling, bloody hands, he reached out to touch her face. "I don't know if you can hear me," he whispered, his voice fading. "But you're free now. The thorns let me through, which means you can wake up, Sleeping Beauty. Someone with true intent finally made it. You can wake up and live again." He smiled, even as darkness crept in. "I won't be here when you do. I'm dying. Lost too much blood. But that's okay. I didn't come here for a reward. I just wanted you to wake up. I wanted you to have a choice. To be free." His hand slipped from her face, too weak to hold it there. I hope you have a good life." He leaned forward, using the last of his strength, and pressed his lips to hers. Her lips were cold, cold as marble, cold as death, cold as 100 years of sleep. And then they weren't. The warmth returned to them, flooded into them, And as he felt the warmth of her lips, the warmth flooded into him. Sudden, shocking warmth like fire in his veins. Energy surged through his body. Magic, ancient and powerful, knitting wounds closed, stopping bleeding, pulling him back from death's edge. Aldrich gasped, jerking back as the pain vanished. The cut sealed, the gash in its leg closed, his ribs mended with audible cracks. He was healed, completely healed. Her eyes opened then, slowly, deliberately, with focused awareness. They were yellow, bright yellow, burning like a wolf's eyes in darkness. He had heard of that, and it was true. You are beautiful. Briar Rose sat up in one fluid motion, her honey blonde hair cascading over her shoulders, and looked directly at him. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then she touched her own face, her arms, confirming that she could move again. Hello. I am Briar Rose. She turned those yellow wolf eyes on him, assessing. Prince Aldrich of Valdoria, she said, and he hadn't told her his name. The sixth son, the one nobody wanted, the one who came because you thought it was the right thing to do. How do you know? Because I'm awake. They stared at each other. What do you want me to do, Princess? All these people will wake. My mother, my father will wake. I should stay here, shouldn't I? But no. No, I don't want to. I was in a prison for 16 years. I'll do whatever you want, Sleeping Beauty. Then take me from here. Take me away. Years passed. Travelers spoke of a cursed kingdom that appeared in the mist, a place of thorns where a mad queen wept constantly for a daughter who never returned. Sleeping Beauty didn't know about that. She was with her prince. She had heard about King Stefan dying, calling her name. But there was also something else that was spoken about. A sanctuary in the mountains, built by a prince and a beautiful princess with yellow wolf eyes and honey blonde hair. And it was a place for the lost, for the cursed, for the broken. And beside her, always at her side, was a prince who had given up everything to wake her, and now followed her, who'd seen the darkness inside and loved her anyway, who chose her every day. Briar Rose still thought of her mother with great sadness, and her father. She still had days when the wolf in her eyes grew too bright, and she had to fight against what she could become. Because the truth was, she was in charge of the thorns. She could have made the thorns go away. The kingdom could have resounded. The king could have married again. her know that throne did not deserve to be sat on. So as Eldrick carried her away, she let the thorns grow and grow and grow. Aldrich stayed beside her through all of it, through the years, loving her not despite the darkness, but including it. The thorns remained at the edge of their sanctuary, a reminder, a protection, but they had gates now and paths and could be passed through by anyone who came in peace. And sometimes on quiet evenings, Briar Rose would look toward the distant horizon where the castle of thorns, created by her, lay hidden in the midst, and she would think about the girl who pricked her finger a lifetime ago, because it was her choice to do it. You survived, Briar Rose. She would whisper, you survived and you became something more, something stronger, something true. And the thorns would sway in the wind, no longer a prison, but a promise that even the darkest curses could be broken. That even the most impossible sleep could end in waking. That even monsters could choose to be human. And that true love, not the fairy tale kind, but the real, messy, complicated kind, could save anyone willing to be saved. It wasn't the ending that anyone expected, but it was real, it was earned, and it was hers. And in the end, that was worth more than any crown. So ends the tales of Sleeping Beauty, not with a kiss of love and duty. But with the daughter's righteous rage, a mother's guilt, a gilded cage. The thorns grew black, the castle fell. The queen who bargained lived in hell. The king who locked his child away found darkness in their final day. But she who slept for years untold, whose eyes burned yellow, fierce and bold, she chose her path, she chose her fate, she walked away, she wouldn't wait. For sometimes love is not enough, but when built on choices cruel and rough, and sometimes breaking free from pain means leaving those who cause the chain. The castle sleeps behind its walls, a monument to pride's great fall. And sometimes breaking free of pain mean leaving those who cause the chain. When Briar Rose walks free at last, no longer prisoner of her past. So heed this tale, remember well what desperate bargains curse and sell. For magic always claims its due, and children pay for what you do. My stories burrow deep where they cannot flee. And in the darkest corridors of your nightmares, you You do? she's been having rough weeks. I don't know what to do to help her. I've talked to her. I've talked to her and talked to her until I'm blue in the face. No, I'm just saying, I don't know how.
The recipe is below the video. Galactic chocolate mirror cake. The recipe is below the video.